Oh. Okay.
Yeah, recording.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Mom's basement.
Actually, it's your mom's shed.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
your dad built it.
Actually, I helped build it, so
Oh, wow,
I have
so
the right to be out here.
You have, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Totally
through
have
hard
the
work
I have
apparently.
the
So
fucking right to be out here.
we're not as leechy as other people are to their moms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Maybe.
So you like worked to build this shed?
Yeah, I worked to build this.
So this is like your 40 acres right here.
We
Getting
built
to
this
play.
motherfucker. You want to kill me because of my color? Mr. America, the only black niggas want you.
So this is reparations.
This
Getting
is-
to play D&D out in your in the shed.
Yeah,
once a week.
no, it's reparations.
Here's one important fact, since this is likely just going to be audio. He's black.
He should have. Actually, I'm white. I'm making a joke about.
One of us
Black
is
people.
black.
Black.
Yeah, one of us is black. Can you figure out who it is?
I'm sorry, it's me. I'm black.
Yeah, Mike is the black one.
I'm sorry I lied, people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But he's
Minutes
okay
of
with us.
racism.
He's
Let's
okay
see,
with
we
us.
we have 6 hours to record. So
Yeah.
that'll be 5.5 hours of. No, I'm the black one.
I have a black kiss. Let me just make sure the camera is on. Yes, it's still on. We're at 6 hours, 44 minutes, 26 seconds.
So it will be.
And we're 1 minute and 42 seconds in.
You know what's important? We haven't really started
We're going to
the
cut
podcast
this
yet.
first 1 minute and 21 seconds, right? This isn't
Yeah,
going on
maybe.
the internet.
No, this will probably go on internet.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Okay.
welcome to the Mom's Basement fucking podcast.
Yes.
Should we introduce ourselves? First name?
Are we going to use aliases?
No.
I
I already said Mike's name.
Yeah. Besides, I would not want to be known as an alias anyway.
Oh. Well, I'm Rudy.
I'm Hank.
And I'm Mike. So,
on the table, literally on the table
On the
tonight,
fucking table.
yeah, is Mike's game, which you made in 3 hours this morning.
3 hours this morning plus another 2 hours last night.
Wow, 5 hours of game design time. That's like 5 of my
Most of that was because I couldn't sleep, so it was like, eh. You know?
Although you also have 2 pages written, which is 2 more pages than any game I've ever made. Except for a 6-page manual, which was 15 pages.
Wasn't it 12?
Yeah, with the charts unfinished at 12.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I should start explaining what this is, shouldn't I?
Sure.
This is just a working title, but for now I'm calling it Harken, with an exclamation point.
Harken!
This is an important part of it.
Lad?
Yeah, Harken lad. I knew it was something after that.
Anyway.
Or harken back to the days of yore.
Yeah. Let me tell you a story of the days of high adventure.
Maybe that's why I named it that. I don't even know which is the problem, but it's not much of one.
Okay.
Anyway, let's get to the point of this. And this is a game that I started thinking of trying to figure out how to incorporate a backgammon board into RPG playing. How I ended up doing that was somewhat melding it in with more traditional elements somewhat, but still trying to keep it its own separate important part. There are still problems with it since it's continuing development here, but I think for the most part I got it fleshed out where I like it for now, but I am willing to take suggestions, of course.
Great.
So let's start by talking about how the setting is determined in this game.
Okay.
Unlike having it thought out beforehand and it being given to the players actually make the rough setting of it. All the GM does is give a requirement. So the GM could say something like, I want a map based on medieval times, medieval fantasy times, or I want an intergalactic 4-planet, 5-planet solar system.
Mm-hmm.
and you work from there, and the players give suggestions about what the setting is like.
Okay.
And at the same time, after the planets are made or whatever is made, the players then make their characters, which can be from any race or pretty much anything that they want. This has no mechanical importance, but it does in a role-playing style because it will determine
flavor type of.
Yeah, it's your flavor type, and
I got Cheeto a Cheeto
First
fingerprint
Cheeto
yeah,
on your rules text.
First Cheetos.
I just christened
It's
it.
Christmas.
Yes.
Now I hadn't read the rules before sitting down here. So you're calling the in the rules you mentioned that there's a terraforming session or a session called terraforming. So this would be one entire session of the game devoted to setting creation?
Yes, but this would be the only one.
Okay, and after that the setting is done.
The setting is made, it's hard, it's set in
Yeah.
stone, it
I
cannot
get it.
change. So you get your chance to determine what it's going to be like, but after that, it's
Now
up
what
to
about
the GM.
expanding on the setting as the game progresses and working out the details of the worlds and stuff? Does that happen, do the players dictate that? Or do the players really just create a rough outline in this first terraforming session that the GM then follows for the campaign?
I was thinking mostly that the GM will follow it, but there
okay.
can be input, I was thinking, from the players in special, like, 15, 20-minute things at the beginning of special sessions that the GM determines. Nothing too common.
Okay.
So sort of like a pre-game setting adjustment. The GM says, well, I was thinking about taking the setting in this direction, and then the players kind of...
Yeah, and if they want, if they're like, you can also use those to determine properties of a special character that may be introduced.
Also like a special NPC or
a
something.
special
comes
NPC or something.
Right.
Since, like, somebody that would be accompanying them on a mission or
Oh,
something
I see.
like
So
that.
the GM says, like, today you're going to be invading, like, this planet, and Captain, Morgan, we'll say, is going to be the... Captain Morgan is going to be the captain of the ship or whatever. You might help collectively build Captain Morgan.
Exactly.
I can already tell this is right down Rudy's alley.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Now wait, we're calling you Rudy, right? I don't
Yeah.
remember what you introduced yourself as.
Yeah. Or you can call me Fetus Commander. Yeah.
Okay, so you have this session devoted to setting creation. Is there a way that is this session structured in a very particular way? Is it structured in a way that sort of leads players through the world creation process, or is it more of a free-form kind of brainstorming session?
It's definitely free form.
Okay.
Players can start wherever they want in
Right,
it,
fuck you.
but you do have to deal with each section one at a time, of course.
Right.
Finish one part, move to the next.
Oh,
That's the only structure of
So
it.
if somebody says, like, I want to build, I want to build this planet, or I want to build this part of the world, like, I want to do the NPCs, I want to do the magic system, that kind of stuff.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the GM will say whether there's whether there's magic or not.
Oh.
But for my style personally, you can always build around it rather than just cut it off completely.
Now, so this could be anything. So the GM, just to work out a hypothetical here, could say, okay, we're dealing with a dark film noir setting that has goblins in it and laser guns. And then the players would have to work from there. The dark film noir setting with goblins and laser guns.
Yes,
And
exactly.
infanticide.
Yeah.
And infanticide.
And it gives, I figured this would be a very, very good way for there to be a GM yet still have it open up to the players, because it creates back and forth. You have the players who are able to determine their own setting and be involved in it, feel like they actually did something. And the GM has some incentive to actually think about what they're doing, try and be creative with what they're doing, instead of having something pre-built and
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone at this table who's a particular fan of playing games with pre-built manual settings,
I like Eberron.
You like Eberron?
Yeah, I think it's a really inspiring setting.
I don't think I've ever encountered a setting in an RPG that I wanted to sit down and read. At least not since I was like 16 years old and still getting a hard on to reading the monster manual.
I read almost all the settings from everywhere.
I can't. Usually this part where it gets into setting is when I close the book. That's particularly true of White Wolf games.
Yeah, I'm okay with having a pre-built setting. It's when you start getting into the particulars and having it being so nuanced that it just loses meaning to me.
Right, and it eliminates the ability of players to really engage unless they memorize those nuances and unless they know that the continent of Al-Sabam is here and the capital city of Al-Sabam is Zimzalabim, and in Zimzalabim the primary export is cotton or whatever.
See, I'm fine until you get down to like primary export, and this is how many Negroes live in Zimzalabim.
Yes.
Shit, that's just fucking. I don't know.
This city favors a lizard folk who are enslaving these people, but those people are setting up a rebellion. You're not in the middle of it, however, you're just going through the goddamn city.
That right is kind of
whereas that content actually seems cool if the players came up with it and injected it into the game themselves.
Right, exactly.
Because then it doesn't seem like some jerk you don't know forcing his personal masturbatory, details on you. Oh yeah, it's the dickhead I do know forcing his masturbatory details on me, and I get my masturbatory details.
You get to have your input.
Exactly.
That's
Everybody's getting something.
Okay, so we got a general idea of how setting creation works in this.
Okay, so now you get into what's involved in it, as to the actual mechanics of it.
Okay, we're talking about game mechanics now.
Yes.
Okay.
So what you need for this is one backgammon board.
Okay, we have that.
And you need 4 pieces for each player.
Okay.
So, does color matter?
Just make sure you can differentiate between the players.
Okay.
That's
Yellow,
very
white, red,
important
white,
because
red.
you're going to have multiple pieces on the board at the same time. Each player is, and all the players will be playing on the same board.
Oh, we got you.
Okay.
So ideally, you might even want to put stickers on these as a way to
Or
differentiate.
just have different colored pieces, like different color stones or something.
What I was originally going to do was going to take my backgammon board when I was going to buy one, put Velcro on it, make some wood circles, paint them at the top, and put Velcro on the bottom. That way you can move the board and still differentiate from the players.
Now, I'll be honest, I've never played backgammon before, so I don't
either.
know. Do backgammon sets generally have the same 2 colors in the way that, say, checkers is generally always red and black? Or do backgammon boards and pieces come in a variety of different colors?
Mostly it's red and black because
Okay,
the pieces are actually called checkers.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, mostly red and black. We have a white and red here, which is a little weird for me.
This is a travel set, so that's why.
So then it would, in most cases, be necessary for the players to find some way to customize their pieces in order to keep it clear who is who.
Yeah. And there's also some other nuances in the rules, in the actual backgammon rules, which carried over to here. In fact, for the most part, I think I put something in backgammon into each part of it.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is handle the more traditional roll setup. What I did with the rolls is you use 2d6 for this.
Okay. We have 1d6.
It's a double
Yeah,
cube.
that is a doubling cube.
Yeah.
That I have not determined exactly what I'm going to do with, but that will be later in a
So
feedback section.
that's something that's unique to backgammon.
Yes,
then,
that is your gambling element for this game.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Okay? And as far as the 2d6 rules go, there are some special ones you can land on.
Okay.
And normally in backgammon, if you roll double something, each piece has to roll double the amount on each one. Normally you would say you rolled a 6 and a 4 for a 10. Okay. You can move one piece 6 spaces, another piece 4 spaces, or one piece 10 spaces.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But if you rolled, say, double 3s,
okay,
you would move one piece 6 spaces, another piece 6 spaces.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's kind of nice.
Or one piece 3 spaces, another piece 3 spaces, another piece 3 spaces, and another piece 3 spaces. or any combination where you get 12 total.
Oh, okay.
As long
okay.
as you have sets of 3.
Sets of 3, okay.
Yeah, that's one of the nuances. And I set that up somewhat into the rules.
Okay.
I kept double ones a critical failure. However, as far as moving on the board goes, I made that so you move backwards 3 spaces.
Okay.
And I'll explain what this board is used for later, but this intertwines with the rolling.
Okay.
So I had to explain that now.
Right.
If you roll the 3 total, it's considered just a miss. Nothing bad happens, but you still move backwards 1 space on the
Okay.
chain board.
Okay.
If you roll double 4s or double 5s, it's not a critical success, but you do get a special bonus.
Now, we're talking about successes and misses. Do these roughly translate into the same terms for D&D or another role-playing game?
Yes.
So, like, what kind of situations would you be resolving here? Would this be like I try to swing my sword at the arc?
Possibly
Oh, I
that
got
could be
a
one of those.
success, and then that's mirrored somehow in movement in the board, or I have a failure while you didn't hit the arc?
That's just one of them. I set this system up so it could handle both combat and conversational conflicts.
Oh, so social combat type.
Social conflicts are also possible within this.
I got
And
you.
that's why I termed it success instead of hit or miss.
Right, okay.
No,
I put miss in there, but what else are you going to call
Can
it?
this also
Hit or miss
resolve
in
skill
conversation
situation,
should be-
like I'm trying to climb the rope?
I'm trying to avoid putting something stupid like that, and I'll explain skills later.
Okay, so you're trying to avoid the situation where the guy says, I want to climb the rope, and the DM says, okay, roll 1d20, and the guy's like, well, got a +6 in climb, and then he rolls 8 ones in a row, and the rest of the group have to wait there at the top of the rope for him to
Yeah.
finally get up.
Exactly.
When
Yeah,
there's no
that's-
challenge there, when there's no real situation that
Why is he?
Yeah,
why
Climb
the
up the rope.
fixation on trying to solve the rope dilemma
Right.
yeah.
when it doesn't really have much bearing on on the actual dynamics of play, I guess you could say, or the dynamics of the situation.
Yeah, there's no interaction. It's just you versus an object in an imaginary space. That's not happening in this. There has to be some sort of actual conflict.
Oh,
of
okay.
some
So
sort.
this is conflict resolution. This is social and physical interactions, and this is always about resolving a situation where it's you and another player, or you and an NPC
Yes.
in some kind of conflict.
Yes.
Okay.
There's none of that wonky bullshit.
So there's not any of the arbitrary task resolution stuff. There's
Right.
is
You either can do it
irrelevant.
or you don't.
Right.
You do it or you can't. I see.
Okay.
That
So,
makes sense.
and if you wanted to have that, I'm sure you could figure a way to fix the rules so you can. But
What
I
if
just
you
don't
and
feel
another
it's
dude are
important.
trying to see who can climb the rope the fastest?
That's
There's a
conflict.
conflict.
Okay.
There's a conflict.
Maybe a girl's
So that can
involved.
be resolved.
Yes. Yes, it can.
Maybe a girl's involved.
Maybe a dude is involved.
Maybe.
Yeah, I probably will not be referring to individuals as she's by default.
Nice.
So,
Oh, so you're not one of those postmodern rule sets where you put all the pronouns. as
yeah,
she.
I mean, English rules dictate it's he by default. I'm not
Postmodern is the right word because in any given D&D group, the word she is non-representational.
or overrepresented as I have found out in the past few years.
There's that.
So back to the rules and what this determines. You
Right.
have, like I said, I believe just before we got off into this tangent,
Mhm.
double 4s and double 5s are special successes.
Okay.
Double 4s will actually automatically move your piece on the chain board an additional 2 spaces.
Okay.
So 1 piece you get for a +2. Double 5s will actually add a +1 to one of the stats
Mhm.
for 3 turns. It's a limited time, or until the conflict is finished. Double 6 is a critical success. However, in this, instead of just doubling it, you roll another d6, and you add that to both the chain board and the roll total.
Mhm.
No.
And how those rolls are figured out, it will be explained, I believe, shortly.
Okay.
I was planning on doing the chain board next. how to
Okay.
explain what that
And
is.
that's
That's
playing
the board you
But-
play on.
If there's any discussion you want to have about how I
No,
what's
that's
here?
that's fine.
That's
Let's get all the rules out of the way here, and then we can try to
Yeah,
discuss exactly how you would play.
Okay. Okay. So this chain board, this is going to determine a couple different things.
Mhm.
If you get one piece to home, that will stand in your chain
Now,
stack.
once again, having played backgammon, how does home work? What is
You move it from one end all across the 24 spaces to the last. Hop over into home.
Oh, okay.
So it's
So the 25th space is home?
Yes.
oh, okay.
And the object's to get each of your pieces there. Normally, first
Now,
one gets there all the
red
pieces.
begin on red and white begins on white? Is
No.
that how- no. Okay.
Normally, you would each have a home on opposite sides of the board.
Okay.
They both start on space 1, and you'd move spaces across, and you would have the players intersecting eventually into each other's spaces.
Okay.
But since we're not going to have that many pieces here,
Mhm.
I'm just having everyone start on the same side of the board.
Okay.
Mhm.
That way there's some interference problems, possibly.
So home is the same place for everyone.
Right.
Okay.
And there are rules in backgammon that say if you have a solo piece on a space, someone can land on that piece, prevent you from moving with that piece.
Okay.
I have that in here, that is staying. However, but instead of it being a hardcore you can never ever move again, it's just going to be for one turn you cannot move.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like a stun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just for that piece too, so.
Oh, okay.
So you can
So-
move other pieces.
Let's say this white piece is Rudy's piece, and he's sitting here. This is what? He's on space 6 here. And I'm at home, and I roll 6, and I land on the same space as him. So I've just paralyzed him for a turn then.
Yeah, paralyzed his progress on the chain board
But
for one
I-
turn.
Can still progress next turn. So
Right,
I
you
can
can
still
move with
move
that.
my piece off of there
Oh, okay.
next turn. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I believe that's the only wonkiness as far as the piece movement is going to go. How you determine how many you move is what it is. You have half of each dice
Okay.
will determine how far forward. You round that up.
Okay.
Half rounded up.
So if you have say you had a 5 and a 3,
Mhm.
you can move one 3 spaces and the other one 2 spaces,
Okay.
Okay.
or total of 5 spaces.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's how you move. And once you get it to home, you end up getting a chain piece that you keep at your stuff, and that you can cash in these chips for different things. Right now, I just have it doing 2 things. One is a chain attack, which has an additional d6 automatically added, sort of making it a critical, but not really, because you can still critical with the main rolls and add another d6 on top of it.
Okay.
Okay? Or you can cash in 2 chips and have a special attack, which is made during the terraforming session.
Ah, so players make their own special attacks. The rules for triggering special attacks.
So that's part of character creation. then.
Yes, that is part of character creation. And they also make up how the damage is determined. However, there are limits to that.
Okay.
Okay.
So what would be a sample special attack?
Um,
Obviously, it would depend upon what kind of setting was established at the beginning.
right.
Let's say we've created a generic medieval fantasy setting.
Okay. One of the examples I put down on the sheet was something called a charge slam you could have. First, let me quickly explain stats. There's only 4 of them that are hardcore. You have your personality stat, which deals with your conversation and charisma style stuff.
Okay, your social interaction.
Yeah, your social interaction. It also deals with bartering and stuff like that.
Mhm.
You have foresight, which deals with your ranged attacks. It can deal with your magical attacks, and it deals with intelligence-based skills.
Okay.
And then you have brute, which is pretty much exactly what it sounds like.
Okay.
Endurance and strength.
Okay.
Then you have your health, which is the 4th stat.
Okay.
That's all for stats.
So basically, you have health, you have mental, you have social, and you have physical.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
And that's all there is for stats, to keep it from getting bogged down into stuff people won't use.
Right.
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 So for this charge slam, you could have a roll total plus your brute stat times some multiplier of your determining. You could have it being like 1.x, where x is your foresight.
Okay.
No.
And base stats start out at 5 for each one. Health starts at 65 or 75. I haven't determined which. You get 8 points to plug into your special attack to improve it at the beginning of the game. And each of your 4 stats. Putting 1 point into your health will raise it 5 points.
Okay.
Otherwise, it just raises it 1. I'm thinking about capping off the personality, the foresight, and the brute at 10 to keep it from being too but I might have it go higher.
Okay. And is there any advancement in this game? Does this game have any kind of advancement component?
Yes, there is, but the problem is I haven't exactly determined how to translate into giving what basically amounts to stat points to the player.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Right.
That's the problem. How do you determine how they get that?
Let's demo a resolution then. How would you resolve a situation? So you only... let me see here. So the board wouldn't be set through the whole game. You'd only set the board once you had a conflict, right?
Well, this board actually carries over.
Oh, the board carries
Oh,
over.
Between
okay.
sessions, between conflicts.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's
Yeah, this is...
between sessions, okay.
This actually is very hard set,
Okay.
more or less.
So assuming that the board carries over and that the positions of the pieces on the board also carry over,
They do.
then how do you determine the resolution of an individual conflict?
Okay, let's start by setting up what the conflict is, I suppose. That
How
would
about-
be a good idea.
I'm Sir Yokup of Beat That Ass, and I want to punch him in the face, his guy.
My guy?
Yeah, because he's insulted my girlfriend.
Okay, now, this is where we get into skills. And this is the one part that I personally thought I liked the best of how I was doing this.
Okay.
At the beginning, when you take your skills, they have to be very, very, very specific. Something like karate would work, or like swordsmanship. So if you used a mace, you wouldn't be able to do that. These skills are related. You relate a stat, to these skills. The stat acts as a modifier for that skill.
Oh, okay.
But instead of just taking like 5 skills, you take 7 so you have some leeway in what you do.
Okay, so during character creation, you select 7 skills
Yeah.
that your character is talented at.
Yes. And those you use for your conflict resolutions, as well as other stuff possibly, if there are conflicts. So, say you wanted to punch him in the face. What would you use to punch him in the face?
I'm going to use my my knighthood skill. Can I use that to punch him in the face? Or would that be a little too broad?
If it was chivalrous knighthood,
Yeah, my chivalry. I'll use my chivalry skill because I'm defending my lady.
I would say okay with that personally. That would be left up to the GM, and I would be okay if the players could get like a mass veto type system, which I have in place for the special attacks. Because if somebody thinks the special attack is too much, 60% vote on the veto. Bye not getting in there.
Oh, okay.
We want this balanced.
Right.
Okay, so the board would already be set then.
Yeah.
When he's trying to punch me in the face. So let's say will you always have 4 pieces on the board or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. One person can just keep 1 piece on the board if they want.
Okay.
They can use any amount of pieces on the board at the same time, as long as it doesn't exceed 4. Counting the chips they have already at home.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's say I've got 3 pieces on the board.
I've
laid
got
out.
3 also.
Yeah, normally they would go down here.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, so you're using your punch. You would roll 2d6, and since you would be skilled in that, that would be probably a brute skill to punch him. Since you're punching him in the face, I would think that would be a brute skill.
Okay.
So you would roll 2d6. You would add the brute modifier, and that would determine the hit or miss, and I would say the damage as well, which is why the health starts out at what it is.
Right. Now your brute modifier, would that be the actual number you have in brute, or is it a modifier derived from that number?
It's
as
the
in
actual
D&D?
number of
Okay.
brutes.
It's a number, yeah.
So there's no derivation of it.
Okay, gotcha. So
So
it's not like the D&D version.
No. The modifier is the number you have in the stat.
Gotcha.
And that's how you progress. It's not like every other number you add one.
Okay. So let's
say I rolled a 6 and a 2.
Okay, so you would take, first,
And what's your number in brute?
My number in brute, I'll give me like a 7 in brute because I'm
it would
a
be
big badass.
versus his opposed roll, and since it's endurance based for defensive style, for some stuff, if you were going to have something like a magical or psychic defense, that would be foresight based.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But if it was a physical defense, you'd have opposed versus his brute,
Okay.
and
Okay.
he would make that roll, which, let's say it was less.
Okay. Let's say I rolled a 3 and a 2.
Okay. So both of you would move your pieces on the board. You would move it 2 and 1. You'd move it 3 and 1.
Okay.
Because you roll a 6 and a 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Try to get this. Okay. So. So I'd move 1, 2, 1.
1, 2, and 1, 1, or 1, 3.
Okay. Oh, because it's halved. Rounded
Yeah, it's
up.
halved, rounded up.
Okay.
Okay. So I have a 3 and a
A 3 and a 1.
3 and a 1, so I can move.
Okay. So your modifier then doesn't determine movement.
No.
Okay. So I'll move this guy 2. I'll move him to here, and I'll move this guy 1.
Okay.
I'll move this guy 3. Move this bro 1.
Okay. So you did that.
Yeah.
And then you hit him.
Okay.
The damage is taken off from the total there.
Okay.
And you move on.
Okay.
Okay.
Someone will eventually lose. Eventually, of course, you'll get pieces to home, and that's where the strategy comes into, where you use the pieces as well. There can also be, at the GM's request, certain things that will penalize certain skills and stuff. So you may not want to be using that skill the entire time.
Right.
So then, what's the purpose of the backgammon board? What happens when you get to home, basically?
You get chips, which you can use to spend on your extra attacks or your
Okay.
special.
Okay. So basically, the board exists as a means to determine level up, to determine advancement, right?
I would say partially.
Because
I
once you
was-
get your chip to home, you
Yeah.
achieve some kind of currency that you can use to buy advancement.
Originally, I was thinking if you got all 4 chips to home, you could cash in the 4 chips for 1 stat point at the end of the session.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how clunky that is to you guys, if you like that. I want to
That
see
could
how
work.
balanced
I like
this
that
is.
sort of, because that's
first
a
two.
slower type of advancement.
Yeah, this doesn't seem like it would go really quickly.
Right.
So then the board is basically a means to determine advancement.
Yeah,
And damage and everything else is handled through the same rolls that move you along the board, but aren't actually dependent upon what's going on the board.
right.
Oh, okay.
So,
No, that's and also the board determines when your special is charged, right?
Right, because you have to spend chips for that
So
too.
you have to spend chips for your
It's
special
2 chips
attack.
for a special attack, 1 for a
okay, and you get 1 chip every time you
you get home.
You get it home. right?
get to home. Okay.
And you can have a maximum of 4 home. You can cash them and start all over again.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So,
I got you.
And-
really, the board is a way of tracking the currency of the game.
Yeah.
It's almost like a power gauge, actually.
Yeah,
in some
yeah,
way.
like
That's
charges
exact-
up, sort of.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Like a
Something-
limit gauge.
Something like a limit gauge. Exactly. That's why I was unsure about using the chips as a way to level up, because I want there to be incentive to use the chips for
During
your attack.
play.
During I
But
see.
instead of having people save up your chips and getting the stat points all the time.
Mhm.
So,
Well,
there's
then
some-
why not have it simply be you track, how many chips you've gotten to home, and every time you get 4 chips to home, you get the stat point.
That could work.
That could
As
work.
opposed, so you'd be tracking how many chips you've got, or how many, what do you call these things? Checkers, I guess?
Yeah, I've been just
I think
calling
they
them
call them
chips.
pawns, but I think.
Yeah,
Pawns,
I've seen them
checkers,
called
chips.
checkers.
How many pieces you get to home.
Yeah.
And every time you hit 4 pieces in home, you get a stat boost.
Yeah.
And then, meanwhile, every time you get 1 to home, you get, a chip or whatever.
You get more currency.
Your power gauge fills up a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might work.
I
That
like
might
the
work
idea
better.
of of having a more dynamic form of in-game currency,
Yeah.
as opposed to D&D where it's, and D&D always has to be the default example, right?
Everybody knows.
But really,
Yeah.
GURPS, a lot of systems use some kind of limiter, like this can be used, this particular skill or ability can be used X times per day, X times per session.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty static, it's pretty boring. You track it on your
Yeah.
sheet and that's it.
Yeah.
This
I like
creates
the
its
idea
own
of trying to get the pieces, especially if you had a really hectic battle, trying to
Right.
get as many of your pieces to home as possible so
Right.
that maybe you'll charge up your special just in
Right.
time to have it go off at the end.
And the other guy can sit on your piece and hold it and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only fear was that it becomes a roll fest. People looking for conflict anywhere just so they can move chips up. That was my
I
one
see.
concern
that's
with
true.
this.
That's
true.
And I hate that.
Yeah.
Now this is a GM game, right?
Yes.
So the GM would get to dictate whether or not something was a reasonable conflict.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping.
Although I guess you'll have a lot of scenarios where people will try to pick fights, social fights, physical fights with NPCs,
Yeah,
just to get the boost. Like, I'm gonna beat the merchant's ass and steal his, steal the money from his till. Not because my guy needs the money, or not because the guy needs the merchant's goods,
Right.
but because I'm hoping to get advancement out of this. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it does kind of reward being a sort of belligerent prick of a character.
I mean,
Yeah.
you still sort of have that thing in other role-playing units that award experience because you get
Right.
experience for every conflict,
Yeah.
pretty
Right,
much.
right.
But,
As opposed to getting it at the end of the session, which isn't exactly ideal either, because then you get a static amount of experience no matter what you did.
Exactly.
You know, and advancement is static across all players. No one feels particularly rewarded for doing something novel or for taking risks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, it becomes an expectation. It becomes something that people feel obligated to receive. Like, well, why didn't I get my
Yeah, why didn't I get
this
my level
session?
up? Or,
Why didn't I get my level up this session?
Yeah.
Why didn't my stats go up this session?
That's
Yeah,
true.
this actually all carries over. So you're going to have advancement eventually.
Right.
But it's just you actually determine what your advancement is, somewhat through luck. I will say that. But it's still there.
Hmm.
Gotcha.
What you almost need then to compensate for that is a way to reward a defensive strategy.
Yeah, I do. I mean, opposed rolls will still award movement, but
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
But a way to reward someone for holding their pieces back or avoiding conflict or
right,
engaging
exactly.
in conflict strategically. Or conversely, a way to burn someone who is too aggressive, too belligerent,
Right.
or who doesn't play strategically, just wants to rush the board.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I haven't been able to really convene with the actual part of the game here.
Right.
So,
Huh.
yeah, that's...
I'm not sure how you would resolve that. I mean, using the existing rules of backgammon.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't necessarily have to use the existing rules of backgammon, but there's so much of it in here as it is, I suppose.
Well,
Maybe if your home gets, like once it gets too full, maybe you take a penalty for having it too full or something, and you have to either spin those and lose them, or you have to slow down your attack.
That's a thought. I mean, that's why I had a
Possibly.
cap to begin with, but...
Right.
it seems like that could lead to a little bit too much micromanagement, though, tracking how many pieces are...
Yeah.
Especially since home doesn't exist on the board.
Yeah. That's,
I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
well, normally there's containers on
yeah.
the side here that
Right.
actually act as home, but...
so your container could fill up, and then you could suffer.
Almost like mana burn or whatever in Magic,
Yeah.
or old Magic.
Yeah, hold your strategy too far back.
But then what's to keep someone from just constantly burning their special attacks, then?
That's
It
true.
seems like that just encourages even more aggressive
Yeah.
play, where someone
Yeah.
keeps pushing for their specials, then uses their specials right away so they can push for some more
They gotta
specials.
push 'em, yeah.
But I was thinking of what if, you mentioned there being ways to lock people on the board, and that you would do that by arriving in the place after them, you know, and then the piece that was there previously is locked for a turn.
Right.
What if there actually was a way to permanently lock someone's piece in place? But what if you could do it, what if it was reversed almost? If when someone lands on your piece, you had the option to hold them there as long as you held your piece there.
Oh yeah, you can do
Oh,
that.
yeah.
You can do it as it is because you have more than one piece going through.
Oh, because you're choosing which one to spin the movement on.
Exactly.
Right.
But I mean,
Yeah, I see what you mean by that. Oh,
Nope.
let that cell phone
it's
answer.
your mom.
Oh.
Hello?
Yes.